Steve was mentioning that currently there is a process of upstreaming the new, the support for kernel to basically parse the ONI cell, the ONI format, the ONI TLV format, which is basically the standard one. Kernel can work with the NVMe for a long time and with a standard EEPROM, but there was no possibility to get the data from that EEPROM in the ONI format. So this is currently being added.
Yeah. I would like to request Taras to talk about DENT features.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Taras Chornyi. I'm from PLVision, Ukraine, and I'm currently part of the DENT project and helping to drive the feature working group. And today we will talk about features, what was in DENT, what is in DENT, and what's going to be in DENT in the nearest future. DENT mission, I basically copied, I don't say different word, from the JSON. I will not cover this the same, you all hear it several times, so I will just skip it. So the roadmap and feature working group mission. So why we have this working group and what is the main goal of it? We have the big companies joining, and they have their own use cases. They are capable enough to define what they need and how they need, and they can do whatever they want, and usually they are doing this. But in order to provide the neutral ground as the community-driven approach, there is a working group where we getting the request for the feature, we are evaluating this feature, have feasibilities for the project, we are defining what steps needs to be taken in order this feature to be executed, we are then proposing those steps to the TSC, and basically we are making this feature being added to the DENT. So the whole idea, we are combining together, talking about, okay, we want feature X. This feature is needed because of this use case. And we are saying, okay, we can have it by doing this, that. We are providing these assessments to the TSC, we are voting on this feature, and feature is being added to the DENT. We are getting commitments from the members that will publish and provide this feature for the next release. And I know it's a bit tricky to understand what's in DENT now, so I compile a simple table. On the left we have the DENT v1 release and what features were there. It's basically bridging, forwarding, STP, RSTP, VRRP for redundancy, LLDP, LACP, layer 3 ECMP, BGP through FRR. We have the ACLs, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, and control plane policy. On the V2, we've added a bit more improvements on the scale performance on the ACLs and that support for the go-to action. Additionally, the support for the hardware V4 to V4 NAT. Also the port isolation, the policer and storm control, OSPF and ISIS through the FRR. NAT on the VLAN tagged port is basically the VLAN sub-interface on top of the bridge. The DevLink, it's the great new interface in kernel that provides the ability to control the switch as the object. So DevLink, local trap and hard drops. So this really great feature which allows you to see the hardware counters and how hardware is trapping or dropping, how many packets have been trapped and dropped and because of which reason. Also the PoE controller that Steve was mentioning about that was provided by Delta. The boom traffic policing, the data plane traffic policing, the control plane traffic policing. This was as a part of the 2 release. As the part of the 3 release, there is a 802.1x, which has been contributed from Sartura guys, and configuration persistency. This is the Petunia that was mentioned by Steve, and I believe even Jason. This is the persistent configuration of the TC. Unfortunately, currently TC doesn't support the possibility to save what's being configured. So through this hook, through IP tables, you can have this functionality, and it was generously contributed by Amazon. And since V3 release, we've agreed and pushed a quite interesting requirement, which I believe is the most important one, is no test, no feature. And I will go to the next slide, we will understand what does it mean. So currently, when you want a feature in the DENT to be named as supported, you need to provide the feature and the test case for it. Why? Because we want to make sure that The functionality that's being added is stable enough. It's being verified through the great SIT that Manu will cover later. We have a whole process of verifying and testing the DENT in the public domain. However, I still want to tease you with what features are not in DENT, but you can try it. So I've named it early access features. So we do not have the test for them. We didn't verify them that they work. But as per the Marvel version 3 driver, there are some extra features that you can try on the DENT. It's IPv6, it's VRF, it's multicast database offloading, it's IGMP snooping, it's DHCP replay and DHCP relay, it's QoS, it's egress ACL, egress policer, it's real-time COPP settings, it's IPv6 DHCP, static link aggregation, and mirror on egress. Additionally, do I still have some time? Yes, I do, so I shouldn't rush that fast. So how to engage, how to work? We have biweekly meetings. Please join and put the request, either on the meeting or through the GitHub. According to the chapter of the feature working group, we have all requests we are trying to keep on the GitHub, so it's public communication, public domain. Once you will place your GitHub, please join to the feature working group meeting. Let's discuss it, how feasible it is, how we can make it. Then we will perform the initial triage and discussion to determine if this feature feasible and we want to have it. We will find out is there any blockers that prevents this feature to be in the DENT. The simple example, it's hard to find a feature that cannot be there, but let's say MPLS. It's really hard to do MPLS in kernel. So you can do some tricks, but at this moment, there's no MPLS. So usually if you say, I want to have MPLS in the kernel, we'll say, okay, unless you will convince kernel community to have MPLS, we will also have it in the DENT. Also, we will, based on this initial triaging and visibility and feasibility check, we will recommend this feature to be included on the TSC to vote if this feature should be included or not, and we will work with the company or member or person that propose this feature on the plan how this feature can be introduced and accepted through the DENT. So, call to action. Join the mailing list, connect to the meetings, review what we have opened currently, and actively participate. Questions? Yes?
So today we have features that initially Jason and Vincent mentioned about the use cases like go to stores and these kind of stores use cases. It's obvious that we have features for all those use cases, right?
Oh yeah, but it's covered.
Okay. Now when you talk about the next going ahead, the newer retail use cases, are there any like near-term features that we want to add to support those retail use cases?
Oh, I believe it's important one, at least what I can see, it's the .1x, it's the port isolation, it's boom policing, which we already have, and maybe multicast, someone might need it, QoS. So it's all about how the specific network is designed and therefore what feature is being used on that specific network.
Features are decided based on the use cases or?
Yes, it's basically, so it depends on which level. If you're talking on level feature working group, so we do care about feature, but it's only on the level feature working group. If you're talking about the DENT as the project, it's definitely use case based. So, but from the use case, we are collecting the features which we want to add to the DENT to support the wide use case.
The decision is made by discussing with the overall.
Yes. So there are several committees. There is outreach committee, there is a upstream committee, there is a technical committee, and there is a feature. So on the feature, we are focusing on the feature itself and how feasible it is. Then we are proposing it to the TSC, and again, it's a bidirectional approach. TSC can say, I want this feature, how we can make it. Any other questions? Then I will give some minutes back to you. Thank you.